In the Pits is partnered with QBR. Founded in 2021 and based here in Texas, QBR seeks to elevate the cannabinoid industry to a new standard of professionalism and education, while also providing the highest quality product. Whether you are seeking to heal and recover from the toll that paintball puts on the mind and body, or even looking for investment opportunities through adult vending machines, QBR has the solution for you. Head to QBRofficial.com to browse their selection. QBR, they don't sell broccoli. In the Pits is partnered with 71 Designs, owned and operated by veteran Wade Martin, and partnered with fellow Texas brand Compete. 71 Designs can take your ideas for soft goods, merchandise, and casual wear and make them a reality. Message 71 Designs on Facebook or Instagram to get started today. In the Pits is partnered with BEM Wraps. Behind every mask is a unique and creative player. Tap into it when you order your next custom headpiece. Their Build-A-Band lets you communicate with them one-on-one to make your order just the way you want, all the way down to the color of the stitch. Check out their Instagram at BEMWraps for drops and build videos of them working on orders. They offer very competitive pricing, so reach out today to get started on your own one-of-a-kind headpiece. In the Pits is partnered with Hydra. Designed by players for players, you can outfit yourself in Hydra gear from head to toe. Have confidence that when you make a purchase from Hydra, you are purchasing a well-tested and well-thought-out product, trusted by several top teams, including first-place semi-pro team, PaintballFit.com. I personally recommend their Hydra Black knee pads. Purchases over $100 receive free shipping. Head to hydra.fit to browse their selection and discover the Hydra mentality. In the Pits is partnered with XTPL Events. The Extreme Tournament Paintball League is a series put on by the Lukow family of Paintball Fit fame that gives the opportunity for players to learn and grow together as a team. 3-man, Challengers and Champions X-Ball, Draft Mech X-Ball, and even Youth 3v3. There's something for everyone at XTPL. Not to mention prize tosses, raffles, and the infamous paintball munching contest. Events happen throughout the year, and the prizes never disappoint. Sign up for an XTPL event today on PB Leagues. In the Pits is partnered with TexanHemp.com, locally shipped cannabis seeds. In a world where saving time means making money, TexanHemp.com, a local cannabis seed bank owned and operated by local Texas pro player Jared Sherman, is making waves by becoming the go-to source for all cannabis genetics in Texas. Carrying a large assortment of cannabis cultivars, including Texas-approved varieties for use in the Texas Hemp Program, high THCA seeds for novelty use, as well as premium genetics bred for solventless extraction, TexanHemp.com has the ability to satisfy even the most sophisticated collectors. Head to TexanHemp.com and use code INTHEPITS for 10% off of your orders. In the Pits is partnered with Mariachi Águilas de Oro. Based in Austin and servicing the surrounding areas, these Golden Eagles will bring life to any event you are having, from birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, corporate events, or even a simple performance to enjoy. Guillermo Padilla, one of their trumpet players, is also a member of the Texas paintball scene. Visit them on Facebook and Instagram to check out some of their past performances, or give them a call to book them for your event today. In the Pits is partnered with Podrunners Union. Podrunners Union breaking news. Super limited Union Tech tees and, for the first time, Fiesta medals are available online at podrunnersunion.org. Use offer code PITS for 10% off of your order. Stealing pods for undeserving teams. It's a living. In the Pits is partnered with Compete. Compete is a Texas-based brand by Jell Stewart of professional team AC Diesel that provides custom jerseys, pants, headbands, straps, tech shirts, and any other soft goods to help individuals and teams compete at the highest level. Support Texas Paintball and message Compete on Facebook or Instagram and mention In the Pits Podcast for 10% off your entire order. In the Pits is partnered with Get Dat Shot. Get Dat Shot is now scheduling photo and reels coverage for teams competing in the upcoming NXL Lone Star Major. Head to GetDat_shot on Facebook or Instagram to check out his previous work, or to shoot him a message to secure your media coverage today. In the Pits is partnered with Paintball Kumite. Paintball Kumite is a program designed by Colt Roberts of professional team San Antonio X Factor to take paintball players of all ages, experience levels, and skill groups and mold them into champions. The program breaks the game down into small, easy-to-learn sessions designed to help you master the fundamentals so that you can elevate your game. Newcomers to the program get a free 1-hour introductory class when mentioning In the Pits. To sign up for a class, message at Paintball Kumite on Instagram. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 100 of In the Pits Paintball Podcast. This podcast is focused on everything that has to do with the paintball scene here in Texas, from professional players and teams to new divisional programs, local tournament series, field owners, Texas-based brands, even photographers and videographers. Every week, we'll have a short and sweet episode with a new topic and new special guest. I'm Christian Dallas Smith. I'm a player for the Texas Titans, and this episode, we are going in the pits with Tom Cole, president of the NXL and president and CEO of Major League Paintball. Tom, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, we are finally here at episode 100. I definitely appreciate you taking some time out of what I'm sure is a busy period in the season to come on the show and talk a little bit.
No, I'm glad to be here. And yes, it is a hectic time, that's for sure. But it is the 100th episode, so that's pretty cool.
For sure. And because I see him in the chat here, I want to get the question off. So today, when I posted kind of promoting this episode, I posted a playing picture of you back in 1992 where you were playing and hanging the flag in the 92 Texas Open. And his question was, what marker was it that you were using?
It's a 68 special. Tippmann 68 special.
Tippmann 68 special, and you said the mask was Vents, was that right? Or
yeah, it's a Vents goggle, yeah, and and it was an Edema pack.
All right, well,
I don't think neither Edema nor Vents are still around, to my knowledge. So
yeah, I don't think the Vents are. I know the events kind of had like a re-release about 10, 12 years ago, but haven't really seen anything since then.
Yeah, it was a neat goggle back in the day, that's for sure.
All right. So there you go, Sasha. I hope you enjoyed that. So let's go ahead and get started. This first question is brought to us by XTPL Events. So for those listening that maybe don't know about you or your history, how long have you been involved in the tournament paintball scene?
Forever. I started playing in '86. So yeah, a long time ago. So I played professionally probably. I mean, in '86 we didn't really have a pro. Everybody was pro. There was no separation between the two, and I probably stopped playing in, I'm gonna say 2006. I probably stopped being good in 2003, but I continued to play for a little while past my time there. I still occasionally play. I played the ICC when that was a thing, and yeah, I play some scenario stuff occasionally and do my thing. So I still like paintball.
For sure. I sure hope so.
Yeah.
So what are some teams that you've either played for or been associated with over the years?
So I really only played with one team, and that was Bad Company. I did guest with Aftershock and the All-Americans in the heyday when we would go over to Europe or whatever, and I would guest with those teams. And then now I play with some local teams. You know, I play with Dave Painter's group, the 187 or the Mexican Banditos is one of the teams. So yeah, I still play when I can.
Okay, so you still get out there. When was the last time you actually got out to play?
I'm gonna say the ICC last year.
All right, not
Maybe
bad.
The year before, somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah, still staying involved with the roots. I love it. So
yeah, I like 10-man. 10-man is pretty much my favorite format. So
yeah, 10-man is one that I haven't gotten to yet, but it's on my list.
Yeah, it's good. It's pandemonium, but it's good. It's fun.
Definitely. So this question is brought to us by one of our new sponsors, QBRofficial.com. So tell us, what got you into paintball to begin with?
Well, I was in high school and we went to an Army surplus store and they had a little poster at a field called Choose Your Own Adventure. I think that was the name of it. and we went and played. We rented guns and we played and we had a good time. So then we went back every weekend and bought a gun, and then there was a team called Green Machine going to South Africa to play a tournament, and they invited me to go, and I thought it was a little weird and didn't really believe them. And then I saw in a paintball magazine like 6 months later that they actually went and played in South Africa. So I was like, let's create a team. And then me and our friends from high school made Bad Company, and we played forever.
And just like that, you see the magazine posting, you say, "Hey, that looks cool. Let's do it." I
Yep. And there was actually a couple teams called Bad. So we started the team named Bad Company. It was just our own idea. And then we saw in the magazines that like there was a UK Bad Company and a Florida Bad Company, and they were playing each other for the name. And I was like kind of mad we weren't playing for the name. So we just decided to play every tournament we could so that our name would be the name that everybody thought of. And yeah, the rest was history. We played, you know, all the pro events for a long time. So
love it. Yeah, a lot of the people that I talk to, they usually fall into either like the birthday party or magazine. We don't see so many magazine kids that got their start through there so much
yeah.
lately. I'm hoping that that Alex Frazier's new magazine is going to help turn that around a little bit. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, everything's changed as far as magazines are concerned. It
Mm.
used to be that you would go to the bookstore as soon as it came out, or the paintball store, and wait for the magazines, and you're scrolling through it to see if they mention anything about your local park or your team or whatever. So it was a cool time, that's for sure. But I don't know if we're ever going to get back there. I don't think
Well,
we'll have the general public reading magazines.
no, I hear you there. I wonder if this show keeps going for another 10 years, if I'll start getting kids that will say they joined because of TikTok.
Oh, well, that'll be good. And yes, they probably will for sure.
All
I mean,
right.
some of the TikTok reels and stuff are pretty cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. Paintball media is in a really cool place right now. So,
Yep.
uh, so yeah, this next question is brought to us by Podrunners Union. So you've seen paintball go through many different iterations, formats, leagues, and even owners over the years that you've been involved. What do you think about how far we've come, and what do you hope that we get towards as a scene?
It's a good question. Um, so one, I think we're really sophisticated compared to one where we started and to a lot of other sports. And the weird thing is we're kind of like our own little industry, and we've made a lot of our stuff ourselves, right? So like PBLI, we talked about it a little bit online, but PBLI is made by a paintball person. Our scoreboards were made by a paintball person. All the poles and nets and all the stuff we do infrastructure wise has all been done natively. We're not like using soccer fields or some other, built purpose type products. We've built everything ourselves, come up with our ranking system. I mean, we've created our own little ecosystem, which is really cool when you think about it from the outside. And when we meet with cities and do stuff, I mean, they're in awe of everything that we bring to the table. Like we were just in Garland, Texas, and I had a meeting with the mayor a couple days after the event, and they were like, "When you guys say you're turnkey and you don't need any help from the city, you're the first event producer that actually meant that." Because I guess everybody shows up and they need stuff in the city and they don't know what they're doing or whatever, but we have a pretty refined system, and we inherited a lot of our people from the PSP, so it's not necessarily something we've invented, but we, as an industry, we have a pretty robust tournament apparatus.
I guess that's something that I've never really thought about is how self-sufficient we seem to be, where like anything that paintball needs, we're generally able to get it done one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the airball bookers. Like the entire game we have has been created internally by paintball people. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. I think it's cool.
Oh
Even the
yeah.
webcast, like the webcast, Dave DeHaan, Youngblood from Die was a big proponent for the webcast. And the guy that runs that, Darren, he's a paintball guy that just decided to learn how to do a webcast. So it's pretty cool. In some ways, it's very refreshing to have everything from the inside.
Definitely. I think it speaks a lot to just the level of passion that in general the participants have for the game.
Yeah, like I wonder if other sports, tennis, golf, whatever, I wonder if they spend as much time debating, what's good for the game or what we can do differently, or what venues we can have, as much as paintball people. It's basically a never-ending conversation that I'm having all the time, basically.
Right.
Every person.
I guess I'm wondering if other companies and other sports, like if the people over at Spalding are like as passionate about basketball as like we are about our sport.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would be interesting. Because I mean, I literally get calls from everybody in the industry, right? And they're like, "Hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try this?" So it's cool, right? And there's a lot of people in the industry that really want the sport to grow. So just from a passion point of view, not just a money point of view.
Definitely. So, talking a little bit more about your background as a player, this one's brought to us by BEMRAPS. You were most known as a player for your time with Bad Company. So, tell us, I guess, more about your time on Bad Company and what your role was on that squad.
So I was the captain. They would call me like an owner coach, but back then, basically, the guy that ran the team was the captain. And we all kind of paid our own way in the beginning. So there was just one person on the team that was in charge of like the strategy and picking the roster and all that kind of stuff. Um, and I played, I mean, like I played up front in the beginning and then I played in the back as I got older or became more of a general on the field for 10 man. And then we played through the Woods era, 15, 5, and 10 man in the Woods. And then we started playing 7 man, and we had morphed into airball through the 10 man era. We played the original exhibition at Disney for X Ball. And then when the split happened between the PSP and the NPPL, we went with the NPPL and played 7 man. And then 7 man is about when I retired. And then the SPPL came out, which is Scenario Paintball Players League. We played that for a little while. And then I ran the UWL, which is another segue off the team thing. But from the SPPL, we started running the UWL. So I basically stopped playing the SPPL so I could run the UWL. And that's it.
And it sounds like there was a lot of, I guess, change and turmoil and like kind of turnover in the scene in those days.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you think in '86 we were playing 15 man with pump guns, and then by 2003 we were playing 7 man in stadiums. So it's been quite a change for sure.
Yeah, it seems like at least from the time that I've been, and I started playing back in 2015, so 9 years now. There's definitely been a lot more stability in terms of the overall format and leagues and all that.
Yeah, and that's one of our goals. I mean, I get a lot of grief for stuff that I try, like the 7.3 or whatever. But the main thing is to keep our core product very consistent and the same so that everybody knows what they're doing. Obviously, we want to make some tweaks here and there. And I'm famous for always trying to test formats or whatever. Luckily, we got some people on our staff who are always like, let's keep it simple and keep doing it the way we're doing it because it's working. Um, but yeah, I do think it's important to keep trying new stuff though.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Let's see. So this question's brought to us by Mariachi Aguilas de Oro. So since you retired from playing, what other roles have you filled on your way up to your current role as president of the NXL?
So for a little while, I was president of the NPPL. We'll get that fact out there. No one seems to remember that, but for a long time, so the NPPL was started. There was a league. I've been through about 9 million of these league coup things. But so there used to be a league called Lively Productions. That's the picture that you saw me playing. And I'm gonna say in 1993, maybe 92, the team captains got together and they were gonna start a new league. So 13 of us flew to Chicago, had a meeting, decided the way we wanted to run the league. And in 93, they elected me president. So I was president of the NPPL from 93 to about 2001 when Chuck Hench took over. And then in 2003, we had the NPPL PSP split. So during that, somewhere around in 2000, let's say 2002, somewhere there, I went to work for Kingman. So we were sponsored by Kingman and Spider as Bad Company. And then I went on to be I think it was vice president of business development. But basically, I was head of sales and kind of try to bring a new product and keep them relevant in the marketplace. And then I went to go work as the affiliate manager as the PSP. And then I quit there because I was running the UWL, and then I got a job offer to come be the president of the NXL.
And so you've had a ton of experience as one of the senior members within the industry.
Yeah, it's definitely been a ride for sure. I was also the I was like the head referee for a long time of the NPPL. So I was the guy that you came and argued with to try and get your calls overturned or whatever,
Uh,
managing the referees and that kind of stuff. Fun job getting
yeah.
yelled at by everything.
And now you're in this other position where I'm sure you get some comments thrown your way from time to time as well.
Yeah, mostly online. Most people in person are pretty nice when you're at the events, even like Texas, which I think everybody knows was a little bit of a disaster. Um, Everybody's pretty nice and happy to be there and kind of not really giving me grief. So, yeah, it feels like most people appreciate the work that we're doing and that we're trying to make it bigger and grow it. So it's really just the keyboard warriors that are really make a lot of comments.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love the event. I may be biased because we won it, but I definitely had a good time, and I thought that the way everything was handled, at the very least, made sense from a logistics point of view.
Yeah, no, and I saw there was a lot of people complaining about we didn't make the pros play or whatever, but logistically, they're the one group that we can sacrifice, right? They can play the next event without any type of hardship. I mean, one of the kids, I watched one of the kids walking out that won the kids version of the tournament at the youth league division, and he was like 9 miles from Garland, right? Like it wouldn't have been fair to tell that kid now he's got to fly to Atlantic City to finish a tournament that's right beside his house. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, makes sense to me. Uh,
Yeah, no, it made sense to us too, but not everybody online apparently.
yeah. Well, they weren't there, so
They
they
weren't
can.
there.
Yeah. So, and actually, kind of speaking off of that, we do have a question that has been asked a couple of times, both in the Facebook comments and Instagram comments, and now here in the chat. I
Why
asking
Texas
more.
in April?
Yeah, why basically that? Why Texas in April? Why Florida during hurricane season?
Um, well, first World Cup we inherited, right? Like I'm not brave enough to move World Cup, right? It's yeah. I mean, World Cup is. I mean, last year we had 660 teams, I think.
Mhm.
And so where are you going to put that, right? It's hard to find space that big. It's hard to find 60 acres of flat grassland. It's even harder to find it 45 minutes from an airport that's a tier one airport. It's really hard to find it at a place where there's 4 million Airbnbs and 500,000 rooms, right? That it's one of the cheapest hotel travel locations in the planet, that's built to have large amounts of people come in. I mean, we don't even cause a bump to MCO when the tournament comes. Whereas some of these venues, we would completely change the traffic pattern for airlines if we decided to bring World Cup there. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not brave enough to move World Cup. That's for sure. But Texas is one. I don't think we'll go there in March or April again. Now, keep in mind, everybody thinks we've been going there at the same time slot forever, and we have not. Originally, the PSP did it in March and then March, February, and they had their own road of disasters. And then we tried to move it to the spring event, and that obviously has not panned out greatly. But it also works logistically because if we go to Vegas, it's our stuff gets shipped to Dallas after that. And if we do anything outside of that, we're being forced to ship stuff back and forth, and it's pretty expensive to ship stuff around.
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in hearing more about like all of the different factors that come in besides just it's wet during April.
Well, and the biggest thing that no one thinks about is they're like they want to go to Phoenix or they pick all these venues, Denver, you know what I mean? And the problem is 80% of our teams who are not of the top two divisions, top three now with the WNXL, they only play the one event that's within 6 or 7 hours of them. So when we go to places, if we did go to a place like Arizona or Denver, we are not appealing to a large group of people. Just look at how much paintball's in Texas, right? And just in Dallas. So if you draw an 8 hour circle around Dallas, I mean, there's a significant amount of people in that circle. But when you start drawing it around Phoenix, there is not a significant amount of people. So people that are traveling a lot and are doing the whole series or jumping on the plane to fly somewhere, they forget that a lot of our players are just from the local community. And we're trying to show the local community stuff And you'll see the places that we go, the paintball market kind of grows, and when you leave it, it stops growing. So so yeah, so it's not as easy as everybody thinks to just whip out a new location.
Right. Or, just why didn't you pick a date that it was
It
going to
didn't
be
rain.
sunny that
I mean,
weekend, right?
and that rainstorm, that went from Texas all the way almost to Chicago, like right up through the belt there. You know what I mean? So there's no, I mean, there's, and everybody in Texas kept saying, but I mean, you know, uh, spring rains bring May flowers, right? That's not a Texas saying,
Oh no.
right? That's an American saying. Um, so it's spring's challenging. So we're looking at it. I mean, like I said, Texas is one. We are not going back to Texas for those first two events. Um, so we have to find another option. We're working on it right
Oh
now.
boy, I can see the comments now. If Texas ends up in June or August, then it's gonna be people complaining about how hot it is. So
The
I'm,
heat, and
yeah.
we're looking at June or September, to be honest. And I was told it's not that hot in June and it's not that hot in September. But I mean, once again, it's going to be hot everywhere in June, right? It's not exactly, cool in Philly in June either. So it is funny though that we have this extreme sport that everybody wants to be,
Pampered with basically,
yeah, tough, 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 tough. But then we don't want to play when it's wet or when it's hot or when it's cold or when the grass isn't green. So yeah, we're getting soft. We're getting soft. But it's our job to try and find and get the best that we can. So
Yeah, for sure. All right. So this next question is brought to us by Paintball Kumite. So how did you come to your current role as the president of the NXL, and what are some of the things or all of the things that you deal with in that role, especially some that the public or the community might not know about?
well, it was actually Dave Baines who kind of got me in this role. We've been friends for a while, and we had played an ICC together, and he played on a team called Arsenal, which was like our arch rival, but it was made up of some of my old Bad Company guys. So I apologize. Um, so we've been friends for a while, and I quit the PSP. And I was planning on trying to run the UWL, which was a 10-man woods ball league. And they called me and said, "Hey, we're thinking about buying the PSP. Would you come work for us?" And I said, "Yep." And then they offered me the president's position. And then I was basically involved from the beginning to kind of design the format that we currently play, and kind of do that whole thing. So yeah, and it's been 10 years. 2015, you started the year the NXL started.
Wow.
Um, and as far as stuff that we deal with, that a lot of people don't know about, I'm trying to think. So we do a lot of trade shows where we go and we try and learn more about sports. We went to the sports referee conference in Denver. We go to probably 3 or 4 venue/sports shows a year, and an OTT show, which is like the television broadcaster show. So that learning process and trying to be a part of other sports and be part of those organizations is probably one thing that people don't really think about in our role. Um, and a lot of time looking at venues. So
A lot of time looking at venues. Yeah, I was wondering, like, obviously you're not only working for 5 weekends a year or 8 if you include the NXL Europe events. So wondering like what that day to day, I guess, more or less looks
so
like.
I'm on the road probably. I spend 180 nights in a hotel a year. So put that in the math there. Because we do it, we do have the ICPL, right, that we also run, which takes some time. And I kind of that's a passion project for me. So sometimes I'm out there helping build the fields or do whatever. Um, so yeah, so that's, and you got to manage a lot of the cities are the biggest challenge, right? It's not like we're going to paintball parks. So the cities require a lot of stuff. Like we have to submit maps and we have to submit evacuation plans and emergency response plans and that type of logistics, right? We have to explain what we're doing with the power and where the gasoline is going to be stored and that kind of stuff. Dealing with the city, like almost every event, and you've probably seen like Vegas. There was a news article about like that we left some paint on the ground, and then there was Will Barfoot had an article about something that happened in Garland, and and we have these after every event, we have a walkthrough with the city after we're done, right? So they sign off. We don't just leave the venue without them saying like that's perfect or this is what we need to fix, the punch list or whatever. So it's kind of funny. So that's one of the things. After the event, we have to meet with the city. I met with the mayor in Garland right after the event, try to make sure both sides are happy about the outcome of the event. So that's what we do. I'm typically, that's one of my favorite things. People start calling me like Thursday after the event, acting like I'm home. And I'm still typically in that city, still dealing with it.
If you had to put a number on it, what percentage of your time would you say is spent dealing with events versus going to like trade shows or things, maybe looking for potential future opportunities out there?
I would probably say 30% of my time is dealt with, we'll call it growth, right? Whether I'm looking for new venues or going to trade shows to try and, make us more better at what we do. And also have us more involved with other sports, right? So we can hear what the way they're doing stuff and how they're handling the challenges. Because in the end, we're all facing the same challenges. So
30% is actually a little bit more percentage wise, I guess, than I thought. But maybe part of that is that you have your systems down logistically at this point.
yeah, I mean, we are always trying to improve our systems, and we still have some holes, But yeah, I mean, we have a good team, right? Like, I'm the face, and I get a lot of the credit and the grief, but we have a really good team behind us that are like really doing this stuff, and they've been doing it a long time. I mean, almost everyone that we have. I mean, Camille Lemansky, she's been working since the NPPL days. Chris Rail's been doing it since 2003, I believe. Jason Trozen's been in forever. Kevin Filler's a CFO, played for me for a long time, has been involved forever. So we've been doing this a long time for sure.
Definitely. So this next question is brought to us by another new sponsor, TexanHemp.com, which is owned by Jared Sherman of Austin Notorious. So last year, the creation of Major League Paintball was announced, which seemed to be a partial rebranding of what everyone knew as the NXL Pro Division, which you also serve as president and CEO of. So what was the motivation behind the move?
It's a couple things. So one, it's from the outward looking in, it's just an easier explanation, right? When you say Major League Paintball, it's synonymous with what we are. Everybody understands what it is. We've seen actually a lot of opportunities just since then. But if you're walking through the airport and you're wearing an NXL shirt versus wearing a Major League Paintball shirt, no one has any idea what NXL was. I went to one of those trade shows, and the trade show is probably 300 sports, right? And we're set out in a conference, and everybody's got like a little flag with their name of their sport on it. And we were the only sport of the 300 that you know exactly what it was by the name, right? What is X ball, right? No one knows what X ball is. I mean, I sat next to, and I'm not making this up, but it was like the Asian Gay Basketball League, right? That's a for real thing. And you know exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. So Major League Paintball just made sense to me. Also, from a protection for TV and stuff like that, the NXL name had been kind of become synonymous. X ball had become synonymous with a format. And from a protection point of view, we wanted to keep that separate. We wanted to have an actual registered trademark so that when we start going for big sponsors or TV rights deals, it was something that we could protect. That's one of the important things that I had to learn the hard way was that you have to be able to protect your brand in order to make it add value in the real world. And then it really isn't synonymous with the next one. We have a debate constantly about this internally and with my ownership group, but Major League Paintball is the overriding thing. So NXL is the format, right, that we play as X Ball. And the ICPL is a different format. The WNXL is a different kind of league with different types of people. And then Europe is a different entity in itself, right? So NXL is still NXL. It's just brought to you by Major League Paintball.
Right. So I guess Major League Paintball isn't so much specifically like the pro division or the production that goes on the pro field. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a chance we could always spin it to that, if we end up on NBC Sports or something, and we every Thursday night we have a league or something like that we're doing. Maybe that would be called Major League Paintball. But I don't want to confuse people. Like, and I'm sure you've done this, right? So you say, "So what do you do?" And you're like, "I play paintball," and they're like, "Oh, so in the woods?" And you're like, "No, we play behind airball in stadiums, and they're like, "Well, is that paintball?" You're like, "Well, it's X ball." It just makes things more complicated.
Right.
And I will be what they need me to be, right? So if let's just say Netflix came and they said, "Hey, we want to do a whole big show, we want to do this stuff, and we want to have, professional players and all this stuff, but we think it needs to be, 4-on-4." Well, we would become that, right? We wouldn't necessarily get rid of X ball, the traditional format we have, but we may have a spun off format that we do for Netflix.
For sure. It definitely seemed like a move that would just give you more options. So, like,
Yep.
as far as that goes, like, what opportunities do you envision are now possible because of a like new distinction like this?
Well, Hertz, right? We picked up Hertz right away, right after that. We are currently shooting for an ESPN deal. I know that's like the elephant in the room there, but we are working with ESPN to try and get paintball on TV currently. And I think all those opportunities are definitely they started really bundling in once we started with the Major League Paintball thing. And we went to a show in Monaco, which sounds cool, but it's a pain in the butt to go there. But we went to a show that's just about broadcasting rights, right? So it's where other sports leagues, the NFL, the NBA, us, um, were there selling the broadcasting rights. And there was people there that were like, "Hey, good brand move, good rebrand there." They really got the brand move. So, and it created a lot of conversations there that was helpful. So.
All right. Do you have any additional responsibilities that have come out of like creating this other brand name?
You mean as far as my workload?
Right. Yeah.
No, I mean just now we have to we have to protect the brand more, so that means more restrictions on cameras and how many people are filming it and where that shows up online. So if you were going to sign like a TV deal, they would say that you can't have, whatever the restrictions are. So you can't have NFL on NBC if ESPN is signed exclusive rights to the NFL.
Right.
The NFL's weird, right? Because they sell all their stuff off because they're that big. But some sports sell exclusively to YouTube or to Netflix or whatever the brand is that they sell exclusively to, and you have to be able to protect that. You can't just have anybody just saying they're part of whatever.
Okay. Makes sense. So yeah, looking here in the chat, kind of similar to the Major League Paintball initiative, which this question is from Dan Shelley, talking about the Summit Awards. Do you have any comments or updates as to what the Summit Awards will look like for next year?
No, we're currently working on that now. I hope you like these Summit Awards. I think that was one of the best things we've done in a long time. I don't know if you had a chance to go, but it was a very proud moment for me. It was pretty epic. There's a line of people in a casino and there's huge Major League Paintball branding. And a lot of people showed up, which was impressive. I was very happy about that. And it was a glorious moment for paintball, that's for sure. But yeah, we plan on doing something. We just have not refined it all again. We're currently working with the hotel in the city of Vegas to try and have an event. So, but they're doing a lot of work at that park. So I don't know if everybody saw that they were bulldozing parts of it and doing different stuff. So I don't know how long we can have that be our home.
Right. Well, I was able to attend the summit this year, and it was definitely a spectacle. It was awesome to get to go to and bring my wife to. And she was like, "Oh, this is like," she thought it was the coolest thing that she was able to witness as far as paintball goes, and that's from someone who's completely outside of the game looking in.
Yeah. Yeah, we were trying for the wow factor. We really want people to be, proud of what they do, right? You want to be able to bring your husband or your wife or whoever isn't the participating part of the sport to come and see, that it's legitimate.
Definitely. So this question, so actually several questions have come in about ideas or hypothetical big picture restructuring of the pro league, kind of as part of the conversation with the Major League Paintball distinction. So I'm gonna just say like hypothetical models, and could you give any insight as far as like what would work or wouldn't work about these models?
Sure.
So for example, a franchise model like the NFL does, where the teams inside the professional division, they have a spot, they don't get relegated, and so they're able to, I guess, protect their branding there. And on top of that, teams would have home fields, would play home games, away games, single matches every weekend during the season, be grouped into conferences, things like that.
So, well, a little background though. So the American style of franchises, right, is different than the European style. And we basically are playing a European style format, right? That's how almost all the European sports work, where you get relegated and you get promoted, moved on up. Um, there's an original NXL that was around before us, which is traditional true X ball. And they tried that franchise model. Um, and there are some challenges with it. First, it's the name rights, right? So in order to become part of that franchise, you would have to basically be in partnership with all the teams. And they did do that during the NXL thing. And I think it's kind of left a bad taste in some of the teams' mouths, because you take a team like Dynasty, they've been around through probably four versions of leagues. And so they basically are bigger than the league, in some format, and they don't want to give up their name and then have it kind of go down with the next league. Does that make sense? So
Right.
like Infamous used to be Miami Effect, and I don't know the whole history there of the team name, right? But there was like a separation of the names. Avalanche, they lost their names in this NXL thing. So um yeah, it's hard because we've inherited a system, right, that we created, because we're not really a league, we're a series of tournaments, right? We're not playing like a full season. You win every tournament. And change scares people, that's for sure. That would probably be the biggest negative. So but if we did do some big TV deal, long-term TV deal, we would probably go to a franchise type environment. But what would it look like if teams couldn't win a berth, right? A lot of these teams, let's use PB Fit, right? It's a passionate group of people. They are doing a lot for Texas paintball, and they wanted to be pro as a group, a family, a group of friends, whatever. Um, and so if they didn't have that option, the best they could have had was to get picked up by the existing pro teams in some type of draft, or however that ended up working. And I do think that would stymie growth a little bit. Just a theory. So that's one of my concerns with not with doing that system. I think a group of friends get together and they want to go pro. To me, that is what paintball is, right? That's how Dynasty got started, right? They're a group of kids that all grew up together and started playing together as kids, and they said we want to take this all the way, and now they are where they are. And it would be weird to kind of stop that process. But I do agree, it is weird that sometimes we relegate someone. And this year, the way the season's been going, someone that is a well-known team might get relegated.
Right. I mean, that's always a risk. I know, what was it, last year or 2 years ago, I think the Ironmen were knocking on the door of relegation, and that would have been a significant change there if a team like that as storied as the Ironmen were to suddenly no longer be in the pros.
Right, right. But for every tragedy, there's an opportunity, right? Like, so that's the agony of defeat, right? Someone's losing, but you're giving a new group of people a chance to come up and play, right? And sometimes you need that newness, right? Like, let's look at Europe for a second, but like Scalp just won the tournament, right? And they're a bunch of young guys and super excited about paintball. You just don't want always the same old guard winning. And I think paintball, especially pro in the US, has kind of gotten that way a little bit. And now we see a lot of new young teams that are beating on the door, right? Hurricanes, PB Fit, Blast Camp. Um, they're all, making moves and kind of making waves.
Definitely. It's part of what's made this season so far so exciting, I think.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's definitely cool. It's exciting, right? Like, I was talking to the PB Fit guys, like when they were playing Dynasty, and typically when you hear a bunch of people cheering, that means Dynasty's winning. And this was probably the first time I've ever been a part of something where it was for the other team. Like, I literally thought Dynasty must have just won, and then I go over there and PB Fit had won, so or had won the point. I should say the match, but yeah.
Oh yeah. So here's one more hypothetical model here that I'm going to throw out, and I'm calling it loosely the Formula One model. So
Okay.
um, instead of 5 events throughout the year, let's say you have 10 or 15 events. So significantly increase the amount of events throughout the year. And however, each location has a set layout that doesn't change, similar to how like you go to Abu Dhabi in Formula One, that racetrack doesn't change, but you just increase the amount of events throughout the year. So what would you think about a model like that?
It's not a bad idea, and if it could get us using paintball parks, it might be a good thing. We tried something like, because right now we're capped at five, right? You can really only expect, like, a pro team can barely afford to go to the five as it is, right? So if we went to eight, you'd have to then say that the pro teams are not going to go to all of them, and that's where I came up with the conference system with the opens, where I was trying to like try and do more events so that we could expose more people to it, but then limit the amount of events the pros could play. And it just, once again, change scares people. And some of the pros said it didn't feel like they were winning an event because it was only half the pro teams were there and it felt hokey. So some of that's cultural that we would have to change. And yeah, I get in this argument all the time because they're like, I don't want to play the same park every time. And I'm like, yes. So the Dallas Cowboys have been playing in Dallas for however many years now, right? Yes, they might switch stadiums twice since they've been there, but for the most part, they're playing at the same location. And as far as yeah, I think it would be neat to have more events. I think it would be neat to have an event that was more international too. So like you got the Europeans playing in Europe, you got Latin America's team playing in Latin America, and we have the World Cup, but in the pro division, only a certain amount of teams qualify. So it'd be neat to have another like free ranging event that people could play. That was more of an open tournament.
Yeah, interesting. Let's see here in the chat. We've got another question from Dan. He asks if you see your NXL staff expanding. If so, what new roles or departments are you exploring to keep progressing the league?
That's a good question. What's a tough one? We would like to expand and have more staff, and we need more people that are going to help push these initiatives forward, right? Like everything feels like we did the Boy Scouts last year, and it was 2 weeks, and it was grueling and brutal, right? So we definitely need more staff, but we don't really have a big budget. I know everybody thinks we make $1 billion, but we really don't have that much of a budget, and everything we do is just gonna increase the cost of the players, right? So, whereas I would love to add someone, and if we did add someone, it would probably be an outside marketing guy to try and go after big time sponsors and stuff like that. But yeah, I think we're pretty much stuck in this system for a little while.
Gotcha. Another question, kind of similar to the whole systems and formats question. This one's from JC Limon of Uno's Jerky. He asks if the rumor about redshirting that was recently posted true, which was if I think it was posted by Will Ball for Soup either earlier this week or sometime last week, where if pros next year they played less than a certain amount of points throughout the year, then they would quote unquote redshirt and their points would still be D1 or semi pro, and they'd be able to go play a lower division the following year and wouldn't be locked out.
So, first we toss so many ideas around, like there's a million ideas floating around in my head, and I'm constantly pitching them, and they get modified around. And I actually think this one's a Jason Trozen, our commissioner's idea. But we're looking at. I would say nothing's a done deal, but we are running into a situation where we are having more pros end their career or move up too fast and want to move back down. So that is something that we're looking at, but I wouldn't say it's a done deal by any stretch.
All right, fair enough. So are there any stories that you have, any behind the scenes things that maybe never went public? It could be something like really cool meetings that you've gotten to attend, or maybe some disasters that were averted, anything at all.
I have a bunch of them because I'm constantly averting disasters, it feels like. Well, like, so the World Cup venue, that's one of my neat stories. So literally I just drove to Florida and just had to find a venue for World Cup that year. We started in 2015 and we started in Cleveland, and we were hoping we were at war with the PSP, right? So the PSP still existed at the beginning of the season, and they had a contract with the venue that we were at, Fantasy of Flight. So Fantasy of Flight would not give up on the contract with the PSP, even though the PSP was no longer running events. And so we had to find the World Cup venue. And I'm just down there driving around and calling people with flat pieces of ground, trying to get them to do it. And some of the city called me and said their ex boyfriend was the guy that runs that property there. And so I met him at the Gaylord Palms and we talked for about 15 minutes and we signed a deal to go over there and they've been super nice ever since then. And then yeah, I guess I can give how the ESPN deal kind of happened, which we don't have a deal yet, but tentatively, what started the dialogue was I saw that Tulsa, they were doing the ESPN was filming the Axe Championships in Tulsa. So I'm a big fan of Tulsa. So I got in my car and I drove, and it's about 10 to 12 hours to Tulsa. I bought a VIP ticket so I could be there for the airing. I went in, I was one of the first people there, and ESPN was like setting up. So I just went and handed a guy with an ESPN shirt my card and said, "We want to be on ESPN." And it took him a couple minutes. He sent me an email with some contacts over there, and then we started the dialogue right there between then and Texas, which was the very next weekend. So and then we've been in talks ever since. So that's a pretty cool story as far as I'm concerned. Just a wing and a prayer and hoping it's going to happen.
Oh yeah, you just kind of shooting your shot and just happen to work out.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Love it. So yeah, and people in the chat are saying that yeah, the Kissimmee venue is definitely one of the best venues that they've ever played paintball at. So it's crazy how that worked out, just kind of on a whim almost.
It was super lucky, super lucky. And like so many of the people that own the land, they wouldn't even talk to me or call me back. And we've spent a lot of money on that venue. So I'm throwing out numbers just trying to get a World Cup venue, and people are like won't even consider it. So apparently what I'm throwing out is not really a lot of money to those people. But to me, it felt like a lot of money.
Well, we have the venue that we have now, and it's incredible how many people that you're able to fit in there.
Yeah, it's getting scary though. We're probably going to sell out this year, so I'll put that out there to scare people. But yeah, it's we are about capped out on that venue.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, didn't last year, I know we were kind of, as far as the parking situation went, you were encouraging people to like get ride shares in and carpool as much as possible. It seemed pretty huge.
Yeah, no, it's funny. We used to use a number of like 400 cars. That is our like model of how many cars we got. And I think we're up to about like 1,200 now or something. It's insane. Like the parking's insane. Um, so yeah. Yeah, 660 teams. I don't know how many more we could have taken. That's a lot.
Definitely.
I mean, just keep in mind, there's seasons that we didn't do 600 teams back in the day, right? So that's how big it is.
Yeah, it's definitely been huge. I mean, with that last World Cup being the biggest paintball event that's ever happened, and then Vegas right after that being the biggest non-World Cup event.
Yep, and then this Texas was the biggest Texas event and the biggest second event ever. So yeah, something's going good. Something is definitely going good.
Definitely feels like an exciting time. So kind of speaking of the time that we're in now, a few years ago, the WNXL was created, which at that time, I know part of the goals was, it was partially stated to like create more opportunities for women in our sport, as well as to potentially help paintball's application into the US Olympics. So I think you maybe covered it once on one of like Ryan Greenspan's podcasts, but has anything come on the Olympic front? And what do you make of the progress that has come from the WNXL?
All right, so that's a lot there. So we'll talk about WNSL first. So I was actually one of those sports shows. I was in the UK at one of the conferences, and they were giving a talk about women in sports. And they had a big campaign going in the UK about trying to get women to participate in sports. And they found that women weren't participating in sports as much as men for multiple reasons, but most of it is that they were concerned about fitting in and belonging, and that they wanted to participate with more people like them, right? And they said it wasn't like a quick answer. Like most people would say, I don't have time or I don't have the money or whatever. But when they broke it down, it was more about being insecure about the environment that they were in. And so that's when I realized, like, as much as paintball is all inclusive and we feel like we're all the same, people wanted to participate and play with other people that were more like them, right? Was my thought process. And so I wanted to start the WNXL. And then we've had a lot of support from the women and other people in the industry to kind of make it happen. So it's, I mean, it's been a big deal, right? And more women are playing now significantly than ever played before. I mean, I think we had like one point in time we were down to like 80 women playing the circuit, and now I think we're up to like 250,
Wow.
which isn't a huge number, but it is significantly larger than it was. And in Europe, we have 4 teams over in Europe. I mean, this is the most amount of women that have ever played paintball ever. So, and it's the highest percentage of people playing paintball, percentage of women playing paintball. So on that side, I think it's been good. Now, the Olympics, we did not get in for the bid for the US Olympics, and the next Olympics is in Australia. So we are most likely not going to get on that. We've already started the dialogue with the Australian Paintball Association, whose also goal is to get into the Olympics. And then after that, I don't even know where the next Olympics is 12 years from now, but I feel it's going to be unlikely that it's going to be in the Australian Olympics. But who knows? But yeah, I feel like that is still a work in progress, but we're still pretty far away.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely like uh, a very lofty goal to uh, be trying to climb towards, but it definitely would be exciting to see that in there one day. I mean, with Japan offering skateboarding in the last Olympics that they hosted, it was like, oh, the door might be open for some of these kind of new age.
And breakdancing. Yeah, the deal is that every country gets to submit one sport. The host country gets to submit a sport, and that's why we were trying for the American version to try and get submitted. But we did not make it in time. So that
Gotcha.
stuff is planned like way, way, way in advance. But still, one of it is just, you want to set the groundwork up to be correct, right? Like we want to do stuff the right way. A lot of times we've just been kind of winging it as an industry, and just trying to get it done. And we're still really, really, really young, as an industry, right? Like literally, I think the first tournament was like at 84. So that's not that long ago. So yeah, we're just trying to put the foundation correctly and make things go the right way.
And for sure, it definitely makes sense. We want this to last.
We
Uh,
want this to last.
so this next question is brought to us by 71 Designs. So give us a 1 year, a 5 year, and a 10 year plan for your goals for the league and for the scene slash industry as a whole.
Okay. So my 1 year goal would be for next year, would be to add an Asian championship the way we do the Latin American championship and have a team coming in from the Pacific, whether that includes Australia, New Zealand, or if it's more of a Southeast Asia type event. We used to have a very big event in Kuala Lumpur as an industry, and that is pretty much gone. A lot smaller now. So we do work with a guy over there that does an amazing job, but it'd be nice to bring like an international flavor to that and then have them come compete. We do the Latin American Championship now, which I think we have almost 30 teams signed up for it this year. And the winner of that would get a berth into the World Championship as pro. So I think that's one of the things we're working on. So in 1 year, we would like to move our schedule around a little bit, both to avoid the Texas weather and to find a cheaper location for that June event. I really like the site that we have in King of Prussia. Um, and I would like to use that, but the June date is really expensive, from a hotel travel point of view. So we're trying to move that around, maybe move that to September, move Texas to June, or vice versa, to try and swing that to make that good. So to find a better schedule is our goal for next year. We would also like to introduce some type of a more of a grassroots tournament series, something that is easy to enter and easy to play, easy to run for parks to kind of run. Um, and I touch on this a lot, but like globally, paintball is down, and one of the reasons is because the Americans pros play a very expensive format, and the rest of the world just can't afford that format. Not just from a player base point of view, but also from an infrastructure point of view. Running an X ball tournament is super expensive, and very challenging logistically. You got to have scoreboards, you got to have pitch, you got to have pit crew, you got to have coaches, you got to have all that stuff, right? Sort of, and so they're just a lot harder to run. But as long as there is people want to play what the Americans Pro do. So in a perfect world, we would have a second league. We have the ICPL and we have the X Ball League, and then we have a blue collar league, I'll call it, to where it's easy to play and cheap to play, and cost and ease of use is is kind of like a fundamental principle, whereas now we are really concerned about the competitive nature of it and making sure the best team wins and this high level of performance. Um, Something that's a little easier to get involved with. So that would be my 1 year plan. Um, our 5 year plan would be to have a regular show on TV, have a series or a season that is broadcast on TV, enable us to get outside sponsors, enable us to increase the prize package, and have money coming in from outside places. Most sports generate most of their revenue off of TV rights. So typically, like, NBC will pay the NFL, whatever, $1 billion or whatever to air their show. So that is the long term goal there, is to try and have that. 10 years is too far away. I'll be retiring in 10 years. So, yeah.
All right. Well, there's definitely some exciting words of hope there to see what we're capable of as an industry for sure. And a couple of people in the chat are definitely agreeing with that. Like Meme Machine Matt here is from Australia. He's says you definitely need to get paintball recognized as sport here, there, and everywhere. And he also says that the MXBL/TXBL would be a good place to start with that. And the OG boys are one team that he thinks that would come over.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. Because, and like one of my more controversial decisions that I've made was not allowing the Americans to play in Europe anymore. And I feel like it has been successful so far. The fact that we have more European pro teams now than I think ever before. And they're performing at a high level. I mean, the Tauntauns came and played the World Cup, the Luckies, and they both did well. Joy Division has struggled a little bit, but I think 3 of the 4 teams at least won a match in the pro division. And the Tauntauns went on, I think they placed 3rd or 4th at World Cup. And then to have Scout come and beat them in an epic game in Lisbon shows that the European market is growing and getting good. And it was holding us back having the Americans over there playing. So, yeah.
Gotcha. So this next question is brought to us by Hydra. So kind of speaking of the whole grassroots initiative, what does the NXL's relationship and what is your relationship with regional leagues look like?
We love them. Sometimes they hate us, but sometimes they love us. So we talk to all the regional leagues. I would say I'm friends with most of them, acquaintances with the rest, I mean, like, especially the big 5. I know Texas, there's this imaginary war between me and Bunkerfest, right? Like, I actually talked to Chris. Me and Chris talk about stuff. We've talked about his events, you know what I mean? I've given advice. He's called and asked for advice. We talk about formats. We talk a lot. I talk to, Mike's one of my favorite people out there, Mike Hinman. He runs very passionate about the game. So yeah, I talk to him, right? That's what we do. We don't really do anything in a vacuum. Stuff that we do affects them. Stuff that they do affects us. Like Mike moved his dates to help us have a bigger Vegas. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to compete with us, he moved his dates around to try and make it so that we could have a bigger Vegas that was successful. So yeah, I think we have a good relationship. I mean, it's, sometimes it's, I do something that will irritate them, or I introduce something new that is a challenge for them at sometimes, and we just try and talk it out. I do have a promoter rule, and I try and tell everybody this, and sometimes they get on start. If you're a promoter in the sport and you don't like something that we're doing, call me. It's not a Facebook war. You know what I mean? Let's not keep this stuff public. So that's one of the challenges. We just got to do what we think's best, and all of us make mistakes, and let's just keep it between us.
All right, love it. So now kind of talking a little bit more about the media side, because we do have several members of the paintball media in the chat. What is the relationship with media partners such as Go Sports, and how do you feel about the current state of media in paintball?
Whew. Don't give me any easy questions. So on Go Sports, we work very closely with Go Sports. Go Sports has the rights to do the webcast, to do the live webcast, and charge a fee for that. And Bart is the owner of Go Sports, and he's also one of the owners of the NXL. So we work really well together. We work with those guys a lot, and we go to some of these trade shows together. So yeah, it's a hand in hand partnership. As far as the media, I think we have an amazing media group. Um, I know it's sometimes adversarial, right? Because we put rules in place or something that they don't like or whatever. But I think as long as you have a good dialogue and you're open to talking about stuff, everything's a way to work through it. And they've done some, amazing work, right? I think they they blow me away with some of the stuff they got. And when we show outside people what we got going on, they're very impressed as well. I mean, our media guys are passionate, right? They're super passionate, very opinionated, but very passionate. So yeah, they've been great. And I think the new crop that we have is pretty optimistic. I have a challenge with all people in paintball that are like that, the bitter, like, this sucks and I don't know why we do this, that kind of stuff. Like they drive me crazy. Because I'm like, then why do it? Right. Let's just get you out of here. Um, I want to be around people that are passionate about the game and excited about it and all that. And I feel like the new media guys are. So, um, yeah.
I definitely think that we're in a golden age for media right now. And I'm especially proud to say that there's a lot of big media names out there that are from the state of Texas, like Verbal, Get That Shot, Dan Shelley, um, just to name a few, that have a significant impact on the game. And one of those guys, Get That Shot, he has a question for you. What is your vision for the social media channels of the NXL?
It's funny, we were just talking about this yesterday. I wouldn't say I have a good answer for that, but we do need a better strategy to kind of make that clear, right? We've gone through some transitions recently, and I, I think we're good, but I think we're not as sophisticated as other leagues our size. How's that? So I do believe we need to do more, but I believe we have a limited budget and so, but I think it's been amazing. I think we work with a lot of the guys, the media guys, and our new marketing guy is definitely in the trenches making things happen. So I think it's cool. And I'm open to suggestions if he wants to make some suggestions.
Speaking of suggestions, there, Dan asks, kind of going back to the whole ESPN thing, is can we as media do anything to help push that ESPN deal forward, either pushing certain or specific content, tagging, things like that?
I would say they wouldn't be able to do anything to push the deal forward, but if we do get a deal, um, we just need to promote it, right? So let's say we're on, December 31st of 2025, right? We need to do everything we can to make sure everybody watches and that becomes a big deal because that's what's going to happen, right? If it ends up on TV and we get a lot of people to watch it, then it's going to go through the roof, right? If no one watches it and whatever challenges are going to be in place, because I can assure you we are not the 8 o'clock Thursday ESPN slot, right? Um, we are going to be in a weird slot probably because we're a new entity. We just need to drive some traffic to it and keep everything positive.
Keep everything positive.
There will always be someone, we sign with Hertz and someone's like, that's stupid, we're Avis. Or, there was a deal where some of the teams signed Under Armour and people like really should have been Nike. You know what I mean? It's like there's always someone's got to chime in with their two-bit
Right.
opinion about like what they're doing. And I still don't understand why they waste the energy typing out that stuff, but it is funny.
One more question about media from the meme machine, Matt. He asked, what's going on with Caffeine TV?
So Caffeine TV is one of the people we met at one of these trade shows, and we have an arrangement with them, a non-exclusive arrangement for them to rebroadcast our webcast, to give us some outside eyes. And it's been pretty successful. They have super high numbers. I think their numbers are somewhat suspects. That they're reporting. I don't know how they exactly pull it up. And if you look it up, there's like even Live Golf has got a billion views or whatever, and they're questioning how they get those views. But there's no question that it's exposing it to more people um, than we would be on our own. So I think it's pretty neat. And there's some opportunities that are in the works directly from Caffeine TV as far as outside sponsorship and naming rights for that stuff. So
Good to hear. Yeah. One person in the chat. Let's see. Let's see. Where is it? We got Ryan Gray. here in the chat. He says, "Congratulations on episode 100. You could have had a better guest, though."
Tell him thanks. Thanks.
I love it. All right, thanks, Ryan. So kind of looking forward. So with the upcoming NXL Mid-Atlantic Major, there's definitely a lot going on. You've still got to conclude the pro playoffs from the Lone Star Major. There's also a ton of rumors surrounding the ESPN potential coming to broadcast the semis and the finals on Sunday, or at the very least, be there to record and whatever they do with it afterwards. So is there anything that you can share about that or comment on at this time?
No, I mean, just we're actively talking with those guys and trying to make something happen. Whether that happens for Atlantic City or what happens is yet to be seen. I do like the rumors. I think it's cool that we even have like such a rumor mill that goes around, right? It's pretty neat. So yeah, we're working on it. As soon as we know something, we will let the world know for sure. Probably on the coach's show. Um, so yeah, hopefully we will have some news here soon.
That was going to be my next question, was if you did have any comments, or if you didn't have comments, if you at least had maybe like a timetable for information release on when and where to go check it out.
Tricky. I would say, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's really the ball's in their court right now, so we will see.
Okay, fair enough.
But if we were going to do anything for Atlantic City, we would have to know in the next week or so.
Okay. Well, hopefully we get some good news here pretty soon.
Yeah, let's hope so.
All right, so just lots of different discussions in the chat here. See if I can find another one. But in the Papa Sashi says Coach Show getting the juice. I sure would hope so. Another question that I didn't send it to you before, but one that's kind of been on my mind for a little bit. So with the Coaches Show officially being partnered with the NXL / Major League Paintball, was that more of an effort to get a more like official voice for the league? Because I know for me personally, it was a little bit tedious to see like, oh, if there's news that has come out, like for example, about the potential of going from one weekend back to 2 layout weekends, like having to go dig through like unofficial podcasts, like not affiliated podcasts like Ryan Greenspan Show or Play the Game, like instead of a more, I guess, official channel for that kind of thing.
Yes, we do need a more official channel. I don't like talking. Like, I know that seems weird since my role is basically the talk master, but I don't necessarily like talking, so I don't like having a show that I'm in charge of. And I've even made mistakes on those shows. Like, I think the 2 week thing, I think somewhere I said we were going to go back to 2 weeks and we didn't go back to 2 weeks. So I just misspoke or got excited or got beat up by Marcelo and made to say it, whatever happened. So we really do need like an official channel, and we are using the Coaches Show as that official channel. And in a perfect world for me, we would have the Coaches Show that goes over NXL stuff, and we would have a scenario show that helps scenario people, and we would have, a 10-man classic show. There's no reason, like if you were on the fishing channel, they'd have bass fishing, they'd have saltwater fishing, they'd have catfish fishing, each one of those are different niches. Same way with paintball. The scenario guys don't necessarily want to listen to us talk about how hard it is to get in snake, and we don't really want to listen to them talk about like, the best way to take out a tank. So there's two different shows need to be there, and the Coaches Show to me is a good step in that, and they're continuing to grow. And those two are very detail oriented and very good at what they do, right? So it's a very niche show, which I think is great. It's what we are, right? But yeah, so I would like to see that expanded for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, I think so. And JC Limon kind of brought up a good point here. He mentioned the Pat McAfee show. I mean, it would be a little bit awkward, I guess, if Roger Goodell always went to break news on the Pat McAfee show versus like official NFL press releases.
Yeah, and yes, that is a valid point, and we should probably do more of that, and we will put that down as the note that yes, we decided on this show that we will do more official press releases about the way we're doing stuff. That's a good comment. I am no Roger Goodell, but I would like his money, so we'll try and go that way.
I hear you there.
Yeah.
Let's see. So this, y'all go ahead, keep getting your questions in the chat. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in live for episode 100. It's been a fantastic show. I'm just excited to be at this point where I've been doing this thing for 700 days now. It's a little bit tough to think about. So yeah, keep getting your questions in for Tom. But in the meantime, Tom, this question is one that I ask everybody that comes on the show. It's brought to us by Get That Shot, who is going to be at the upcoming USXBL event. So if you're needing media coverage, either as a team or individual, hit him up. So is there anybody within the paintball community that you've seen that might be flying under the radar, or is otherwise underrated or underappreciated? Who do you think deserves more recognition for what they're doing?
As far as tournament player, industry person, whatever.
It could be anybody in the community at all. They could be a player, they could be a vendor, they could be a media person, anyone at all.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say, I mean, underappreciated, and this is my point of view, I guess, right? So I will give John Moran a shot here. Ruthless. He's a somewhat adversarial relationship I've had with Ruthless through my time. I think he has a picture of me in his car with a clown nose or something. Um, so, but when you go online and you'll see that he posts a lot, he comments a lot, and he likes a lot of people's stuff, right? Which helps keep that interaction going. And I always say, like, everybody doesn't have to agree with me, right? There's going to be stuff that I'm going to do that no one likes, whatever. And I appreciate that. And I'm not against having that type of dialogue, but I just want to keep it positive, right? I'm a big, I believe what we put outward to the world should be positive, and it should never be like, why would you play that event? That's stupid. Or why would you do that, right? And I've noticed recently Moran is constantly making posts and doing little positive stuff, and I think that's pretty neat, right? Even though, like I said, he's called me out on some stuff in the past and has been like, on the NXL for different stuff, but he likes the game of paintball, and he does a lot. He drives his truck around and tries to set up a booth, and we need more of those emerging people. And we've had this complaint a while, but there's a disconnect between the old guard, like the me, and then the new young people. And we have to let them in, but they also can't be shitheads. So sorry if I'm allowed to say that or not. You know what I mean? So it's a give and take type of situation. And we need to listen to what the new people are coming to say, because they're going to have great ideas. So there's my shout out to him. But I mean, there's so many people, right? Like, we got Dave Painter and Brad Luger on our end that are basically volunteering their time to come do events for us. You got the PB Fit people are doing great stuff in Texas with all the stuff they do with their fields. You got Giovanni that's constantly trying to reinvent paintball in California. I mean, there's just so many people. But yeah, I had to pick someone just off the cuff there. I'm going to say Moran.
All right, well, there's a big one right there. I mean,
The
definitely.
last one, probably the last thing he's expecting for that one, that's for sure.
I hope
So
he's listening for that one. Yeah, my team goes through his company for jerseys, so I'm definitely very familiar with him. He's been supporting us for 4 years now. So
yeah, and I don't think he has a lot to work with. You know what I mean? So he's helping all these people, and it's just purely through willpower. You know what I mean? I don't think he's rich and driving a Mercedes and living in a big house. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. So
yeah, definitely one of the more passionate individuals. He's around a lot. So shout out to you, John. So here's a question from Meme Machine Matt. He asks, "What is holding paintball back from being as big as we want it to be?" So I guess to rephrase the question a little bit, what's one major obstacle in our way right now from hitting a significant growth?
the whole damn thing. You know, it is ridiculous what we've created as far as like the logistics of it, right? So and it's weird how we've inherited this and we've wanted to do this, right? So there's no one to blame but ourselves. But like, if you wanted to run a soccer tournament, you could go anywhere in the world and run a soccer tournament with just a gear bag, right? You could show up, there would be local refs that could referee soccer, there would be a facility that had it, there would everything be like there, right? We don't do that. We try and build this huge operation that, I mean, we're the largest paintball field in the world, at World Cup, and then we tear it down and move it to Las Vegas, and then build the largest paintball field in the world that day. So that the logistics and all the stuff we've done to make the game great has put a challenge on it as far as how easy they are to run. Tournaments are not easy to run, and when you can't run many tournaments, that means many people can't participate. So right now you have a barrier to entry. In a perfect world, like when I was a kid and I was playing, there was 5-man tournaments played everywhere because we just played in the woods. So people in Alabama played, people in Maryland played, people in Canada played. Everybody was playing in their own backyard, and we were getting together occasionally for these big tournaments. And now you need a huge infrastructure in order to host a game or host a tournament. And that's why there's few parks that are really doing it that way. So PB Fit would be a perfect example, right? But they are an anomaly to how everybody else is running it. So it's hard for fields to make money because it's so expensive, and we don't want to overcharge people. So yeah, and it's hard to ref. I mean, there's everything about what we've done is insane. I mean, I think we have 13 refs on the pro field right now. The NFL doesn't have 13 people, right, to ref a $1 billion Super Bowl.
Right. I mean,
So,
there's only 10 players on the field at a time. I mean, the fact that you need that many refs plus Ahau up in his crane looking down on everybody.
yeah. So, and we have good refs. Like, people say what they want about the refs, and we have a passionate group of people that want to be good at reffing. So that to me is cool, but it's a challenge, right? We have to fly all those people in because we don't have enough people locally. I mean, it's all that stuff's a challenge. So, but I do think part of the problem we face is that we've been so closed in. We haven't really reached out to the outside world as much. We've been trying that now. But I think we're going to see some explosive growth in the next 5 years. I think we are poised at a great place. I think the sport's at a good place. The teams are very professional. The refs are very professional. I always say this, I think we have the best relationship with the pro teams we've ever had. You know what I mean? We're all in this for the same thing, to grow it and make them lots of money, which they like. And yeah, I think all the balls are in the right way to make it happen. We could still screw it up, of course, but I think things are going the right way.
All right. Yeah, I love it. So another question from where is it from? Get That Shot. He's asking, as far as like the media goes, this year I think they switched as far as like the media uniform, let's call it. They switched from the media shirts to the bibs, similar to how like photographers on the side of NFL games are wearing. I guess the question there is like, well, if you're in charge of that or had a say in that change, why did it happen? What's the point of, I guess, the shirts over the bibs?
The bibs are more universal. Like we were switching out shirts or whatever, I believe, every time, and there's been different systems. And the bibs seem to work. Everybody seems to understand the bibs. If the NFL does bibs, why wouldn't we why would we reinvent the wheel, right? For what other professional sports are doing.
Hey, fair enough.
Yeah, I always say I'm not that smart. I will never claim to be a brilliant person, but I can look at what other people are doing. If Dynasty's taking the snake every time and not beating us, I'm going to try and take the snake.
Fair enough. So one thing that you keep, I guess, that keeps coming back up are things that you've inherited as the NXL. Is there maybe one thing in terms of everything that you've inherited that you wish that you could change or do without?
The worst, you get me fired. The thing that the real challenge is the big events, right? The fact that we have to, in a perfect world, we would run smaller events at paintball parks, or paintball parks would be significantly larger. One of the two, right? This moving circus thing that we have is expensive and challenging, and it's a drain on the entire industry. So every dollar that gets spent moving a truck is money that we're not spending promoting the game or making something else better, right? So trying to have these, big events are what we are, right? That is our core business, is huge events. And one of the cool things about doing is the fact that it's a huge event. But most other sports are not doing every event that way. maybe their world championship is that way. But if you look at it, most stuff is you play regionally and then you go to a championship. And the championship is usually actually pretty small, 20, 30 teams. Like I went to the axe throwing championships in Tulsa, who are on ESPN, and they probably had 130 people. They're not even one portion of our VIP was the entire field of everybody throwing, watching, filming, everything. Um, so these big events are expensive and they're hard to put on, and they're a huge risk from both the player happiness and our success, right? Is the weather, right? So if you bring in 660 teams and that one weekend has to be perfect, you're just asking, it's a recipe for disaster there. Whereas if you played smaller tournaments every weekend that were cheaper, it would be a little more reliable consistency. So that's one of the things that we've inherited that we can't get away from. I don't
Yeah.
think we'll ever get away from.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of overhead, I guess, that you've inherited there as well. And
Yeah.
just
And once again, all these things started from a good place, right?
Mhm.
Like, so we were trying to debate. I was trying to have this question in Europe. When was the first event that wasn't played at a paintball park? And it was probably Gettysburg in Pennsylvania. And Smart Parts wanted to bring us out of the woods and make this huge epic event at a facility. And they spent all this money doing it, right? And it was great, right? I thought it was cool. I played in it at the time. I got to bring my parents up, and they got to see us playing paintball for the first time in a real way. And it legitimized it in my mind. But then now we do this every time. And it's an expensive way to do it. But it's cool and it seems to be growing. So, I mean, if you look at our numbers, and people don't really dig into our numbers too much, but I mean, we're growing exponentially, right? Like, if you look back at what numbers we were doing in 2014 before the NXL, sorry about that. We're significantly larger than we were then. And the regional leagues are also healthy. So we are growing, just not as fast as I would like.
well, it's I don't know. I'm still impressed by the just looking at it year over year. I'm telling like what World Cup 22 to last year's World Cup. It seemed like there was just people everywhere, and I know part of that was like the hurricane that we had to deal with in 22. Definitely changed things around, but yeah, I've been impressed about the I guess the overall production that has come into the NXL, especially as I've started playing more and more NXL events.
Yeah. It's a passion project, right? Both from the owners and all our staff and me, right? Like we love the game, right? So we want to put our best foot forward. We're very proud of what we do, right? So that's why we do it.
Definitely. Here after the buzzer in the chat, that's Robert Jordan. He asks about expanding the NXL Pro Division. I know we expanded back in, I think it was 2017, going from 16 to 20 teams. He asks
Yeah.
if there's any chatter about expanding again or if it's going to stay at the current number of 20.
So the real challenge with growing it would be we would have to have a second field. And I just don't know if we could give the level of reffing on a second field to the same level that we have on the pro field. Um, but it is something we've talked about. I mean, we throw around, everything, right? No options are off the table. But if we did expand it, we'd have to expand it significantly, like another 20 type situation, because you would want to have a whole pro field. And then have to spend that money on the refs to kind of create like a parallel field that was going on at the same time.
For sure. Yeah. I know that over the last couple of years, there's definitely been a few events where you're having to finish prelims Sunday morning, and I'm sure that's a nightmare to deal with in and of itself. Let alone adding 4 more teams or an entire bracket that you have to get through.
Yeah, that's why it would have to be a second field. We're pretty much maxed out on the field that we are now. So it's a good thing for in your comments. Do we think there's another 20 pro teams in the world? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think so. Maybe not yet, but I mean, looking at the parity in the league now, we're definitely getting there.
Yeah, I think the pro division's got huge priority, and the semi pro division is pretty competitive as well. So
Definitely. All right, Tom. So we're getting to the end of our show. I want to thank you again for taking some time, just getting back from Portugal and still coming on the show. So I greatly appreciate you for that and for everything that you've been doing to help push the game and the league forward to where we are now. It's been an impressive effort over the last couple of years.
No problem. Well, thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it. And we need people like you doing this, right? So that's how we get the word out there.
I appreciate that. So this final question is brought to us by Compete, which is Jell Stewart's brand. Message him on Facebook or Instagram. Mention In the Pits for 10% off of your order of soft goods. So Tom, thank you so much for your time. Do you have any final shout outs or things you'd like to say before we sign off?
That's a good one too. No, just tell everybody to keep things positive, right? Let's get more people playing and not worry so much about like the bickering politics of what's going on, right? Like I said, there's always going to be formats that people don't like or whatever, and I'll use like let's say an event happens, right? And everybody's like, I want 7-man with unlimited rate of fire and limited paint, right? Whatever the crazy format you want is. When some promoter goes to the trouble to do it, you got to sign up, right? I saw Bunkerfest cancel one of their events, right? And he's probably got 70 people in the event talking about how everybody should have signed up for the tournament. And if all 70 of those people would have signed up a team, the tournament would have happened, right? So, you ask for this stuff and someone like Chris steps up and says, we're going to run this 7-man tournament, I think is the thing that he was running. Mm-hmm. And everybody says they want it and then they just don't sign up. So you got to sign up for what you want or it just goes away. So it's, it's like this story with my wife. My wife, we lived in Florida for a while and she read in the newspaper that this local ice cream shop was shutting down. And so she was all sad because it was an icon of the town and all that stuff. And I'm like, I lived here for 3 years with you and we've never gone to the ice cream place. And there's no question that I like ice cream. So if you really wanted to stay open, we should have been going there every Friday. So think of that about your local paintball park or whatever event it is that you like. If you want it to be there when you want it to be there, then you need to go there. You need to spend money there.
For sure. Definitely. Get active, get involved, vote with your wallets. If it's something that you're passionate about. Yeah.
Vote with your wallets. Yep.
Definitely. All right. So I think that does it. Tom, thank you again so much. And everybody tuning in online, thank you so much. Be sure to go follow the NXL at NXL Paintball on Instagram. Also follow Major League Paintball's page at Major League_Paintball. Tom, do you have any personal social media pages that you'd like to plug there as well? Or
I do 0 on social media. So personally, I just go on and read what people say bad about me, get mad, and then go on about my day.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you'd be getting tagged nonstop. I wouldn't want to deal with that.
Yeah, no, it's tons of fun.
All right. So what other guests would you all like to see on the show? Be sure to leave a comment down below. While you're at it, hit that subscribe button. The show goes live weekly here on youtube.com/@inthepitspaintballpodcast, and recordings are posted to YouTube, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify the next day. I want to give a shout out to my partner and sponsor tier subscribers on Patreon: FU Athletics, Get That Shot, Paintball Kumite, Compete, BEM Wraps, Hydra, XTPL Events, Mariachi Aguilas de Oro, Podrunners Union, 71 Designs, TexanHemp.com, and QBRofficial.com. Also, just for all of the listeners out there, thank you for sticking with me through 100 episodes, 700 days of this. It's been an incredible journey going from episode 1 with Colt Roberts all the way up to where we are now, getting people all the way from the just local involvement, youth division lines, vendors, media guys, all the way up to now we've got the president of the National League on the show. So it's been a blast to be able to do this, and I can't wait to see what's next for the show. So we will see you next week for episode 101. Tom, thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me.